Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing The Reign of Terror, which was sent to me recently by one of my subscribers. I believe Simon sent this one, as I recall, which I very much appreciate. I've been wanting to watch The Reign of Terror again. I've only seen it, I think, twice before over the years. So this is my third watch through, and it had been a while since I'd watched it. It, of course, has 2 animated episodes. It's a 6-parter. Episodes 4 and 5 are animated. I really like the animation for The Reign of Terror. It's not perfect. When I was actually really paying attention this time when watching it, and I think a lot of the little problems people have with it is due to the animation just being rushed. It always seems like the animations never have the proper time, or seldom have the proper time to be done the way the people making them would want to make them. So you do get this impression, and I do believe that's true, that the animation was done quickly with not as much time as the people making it would have liked. Some of the camera angles are definitely different than would have been done at the time, and doesn't quite match the surrounding live action episodes. The most famous being that one scene with Barbara talking with one of the French characters, and the camera's kind of cutting back and forth a lot. That's the one people tend to talk about when they're picking at the camera work being weird. That's the most egregious moment, though. I mean, it's never quite as bad as that, I think, anywhere else, but there's still moments where it cuts a little quick. There's close-ups on people when they're talking that's done a lot more than is actually done in surviving Doctor Who episodes from the era. That being said, that kind of thing doesn't really bother me. It's just something I make note of as I'm watching. The actual animation itself looks phenomenally good to me. I've heard people complain every now and then about the mouths maybe not opening enough, which is something they improved on later. Gonna be honest, I would have never noticed that if nobody had ever brought it up. Doesn't bother me at all. I love the fact the characters are very detailed, and they look like the characters. Barbara looks like Barbara. Susan looks like Susan. The Doctor looks like the Doctor. The guest cast look like the guest cast, and so on and so on. You can tell who is talking at all times. The characters are more detailed than any of the other animations that Planet 55 hasn't done. The Planet 55 animations always have the most detailed facial expressions, and the way they used lighting and shadow, very, very detailed. They almost look, it almost looks 3D. When you look at it, it almost looks like it's done in 3D. It isn't, but it looks like it. I love Planet 55's style of animation, and it looks really good here, and does a good job conveying the episodes. It does take a second to adjust to the animation going off of 3 episodes of live action, and it has that little old-timey Western tint to it, that sepia, whatever. It's one of those words I always read but never hear. That old kind of brownish tint to it, where I wish it would have just gone straight black and white, or at least on my copy it looks like it has that to it, instead of just being straight up black and white, which I would have preferred. But that's a minor nitpick. It is a little jarring going from animated episode 5 to surviving episode 6 as well. Not much on this watch through, but a little. So that's definitely there. Some of the footage, especially early on, did look a little rough. I do think we have to remember sometimes that 60s Doctor Who, a lot of 60s Doctor Who that we have intact was missing at one point, including The Reign of Terror. For a long time, all of the episodes were missing, and for a long time, all of them but episode 2 were missing. None of 60s Doctor Who survive on their original master tapes, the ones that were shot on video master tapes, which is most of the 60s episodes. None of the original masters survive that we know of. Matter of fact, the very first episode of Doctor Who that has a surviving PAL 625 or whatever master tape is the Ambassadors of Death, which of course is from season 7. Pretty much all of the surviving ones are telerecordings, or one of the rare ones that was actually recorded onto film originally, like Wheel in Space episode 6, for example. There's about 7 of those, I think, surviving. I think one from the Dominators, one from the Croton, one's from the Seeds of Death, etc., etc., etc. I think one was from Dalek Invasion of Earth. But most of them are the telerecordings that were made for overseas sales, the 16 millimeter telerecordings. And because of that, and some of those are in various qualities as well. Like there was these two kinds of formats that were done, and one of them is superior to the other. I forget exactly how that works. And then, of course, the condition of the prints when they were recovered. That's a long way of saying the first couple episodes to me look a little rough in places, like a little grainy, a little, I wonder what condition this was in when it was found kind of situation. It's fine. I can look past that. I commented much the same when I recently reviewed the War Machines, because it does have some footage that looks rough. That kind of cleared up as it went on, at least to my mind, or maybe I just adjusted to it. And I got to enjoying the story more. I've always liked the Reign of Terror. My first two watch-throughs, I've always been a big fan of it. This watch-through took me a little longer to get engaged with it. The first episode especially, for some reason, maybe it's because I just watched The War Machine, so I was just kind of saturated out on First Doctor stuff, I'm not sure. But I struggled with the first episode. I only got about halfway through the first episode and I stopped watching because I had started it late at night. I got about halfway into it and I stopped and I went to bed and I came back to it the next day. But by the end of episode 2, I was on board. It had started clicking with me. I started getting interested. I liked where the story was going. And so from there on, I was pretty much on board. By the end of episode 2, I was clicking and enjoying the story again. Episode 1 cliffhanger is fantastic. I absolutely love that, with the Doctor in the building as it's on fire. It's a model. It's a fantastic looking model. And of course, Ian, Barbara, and Susan being led away by French soldiers to be executed. That is a fantastic cliffhanger. I absolutely love the episode 1 cliffhanger. Of course, basically, the Doctor ends up during the Reign of Terror in the 1790s in France, where the not so, well, I guess the peasant class, let's call it, was trying to overthrow the aristocracy, basically. And then I think the aristocracy was fighting to regain their foothold. It was a big battle between the lower class and the aristocracy, basically. And of course was how, in part, how Napoleon rose to power. I actually went and read up on Napoleon a little bit after watching this, just because, I mean, of course I know who Napoleon was, but I didn't actually know some of his decisive battles, so it was a fascinating read. I like the guest cast. I like the set design. I really like the guy who's kind of, the darker-haired guy who's kind of on to the Doctor immediately, who's listening at the door and everything. The actor playing him does a really good job. I really liked him. The actor who owns the house, or the actor playing the character who owns the house they meet at a lot, I like him as well. I tend to like the guest cast. The guy playing Rose Pierre is really good. The guy playing Napoleon, what little bit of time we get with him, I thought was good. Susan has some of her useless Susan moments, and I feel so bad for Carol Ann Ford, because Susan really is that stereotypical girl in distress. Oh, no, I can't do it. I'm going to go work on this some more. No, Barbara, you're tired. It's my turn. I'll work on freeing the brick. And then she goes down there for like 2 seconds. She's like, oh, I'm so tired. I can't. And then she goes back later. She's like, no, I'll do it. Rats, rats. To be fair, if there were rats, Prowl would be like, rats. So I'm with her on that one. Especially even though you don't see the rats. It's cleverly done how they do the rats. You hear them, but you don't see them. Very good on Doctor Who budget. You get the impression it's a lot of the rats, because that seems like a lot of noise. And then they realize they can't escape the way they're trying to escape, because that's into the sewer where all the rats are, which seems accurate. The set designs for the prison cells look really good. William Russell's putting in a good performance as Ian in this one. William Hartnell is killing it as the Doctor in this one. And I love the fact that even here by the end of season 1, he's kind of turning into the more heroic Doctor character. For the most part, determined not only to save Susan, but Ian and Barbara as well. Because a lot of people, I think they watch the first 2 or 3 stories from the first Doctor and they think, oh, he's the old man grumpy Doctor. And that's not, I mean, he is a little more in those early stories. Or some people will say that, well, the Doctor gets nicer as his era goes on, which is true. But even by the end of season 1, he had really grown a lot. The character of the Doctor had really grown and changed and become softer and seemed to regain, I hate to say his humanity because he's not human, but I think most of you know what I mean. He had become a kinder, more gentler, more caring and compassionate person. Like Ian and Barbara had kind of awoken something in him, which I like. The location work of him walking around is really nice, even though I know that's not William Hartnell. I love the scene when he's having to do the road work, and he gets his own self into it because he's just sitting there talking to the guy who's watching all of them work. And since the doctor kind of snarks off to him, the guy's like, so where's your papers? Oh, you don't have any. Maybe you should dig. So it's the doctor's own mouth that got him into that trouble, and I love that. But I love the fact that the doctor got to whack the guy on the head with a shovel later, and you just kind of get this sense the doctor enjoyed that. Because I just feel like the first doctor enjoyed that. He just grabs that shovel and... I can't help but feel the first doctor enjoyed that. I love the outfit the first doctor gets, that kind of French Legion commander outfit. William Hartnell just looks resplendent. Is that the word I'm looking for? Resplendent? In that he looks very, very sharp in that. I really like that. It seems a little odd that you could just buy those kind of uniforms with all those medals. That doesn't seem very smart to just sell that kind of stuff. So I was sitting here going, that seems a little plot convenient. But I love the fact they don't overlook that, with even the shop owner finding it suspicious and reporting it, kind of tipping off one of the, what we think is antagonists to the story about what's going on. So I do like the fact that that's at least taken into account. I like the guy playing the jailer too. The jailer's a bit of an unlikable character, but the actor playing him does that so well. So my kudos to him. I love the fact that he always kind of, he's one of those guys who kind of thinks he's, king of his own kingdom, I guess. Where like he runs the jails, but as soon as somebody above him in station comes up, he's like, oh yes, whatever you need. Yes, sir, right? I love the fact when he always has excuses to make, like when he's telling the doctor, well, I would try to do this, but all the fools I have working for me, and the doctor catches on immediately. The doctor has this guy figured out like that. And even the doctor brings it up in the same conversation. Well, if you weren't surrounded by all these fools, then there's like, yes, of course. Not realizing the doctor's kind of mocking him. I love that. It all comes together really, really well. Finding out the one guy that they trust is a traitor, and then finding out one guy they don't think they can trust is the guy they're looking for, and the actor playing him again is so good. So finding out that's actually the person they need. Seeing the meeting with Napoleon is really, really nice. Seeing Robespierre kind of get his. I love the fact that while he's trying to talk, they shut him up by shooting him. And how clever just the idea is. Well, if he's allowed to speak, he'll probably pull people on his side. That's all right. It'll be done so fast, he won't have time to speak. That's a way to do it, I guess. I really enjoyed this one. It has a really nice ending, too. I found it a good watch. I like The Reign of Terror. I just feel like it comes together really well. It's not one I go back and rewatch all the time. It's one of those I like, much like Genesis, where it's that one I like to keep on the top shelf and just pull down every now and then. Like, I prefer The Reign of Terror over The Aztecs, for example, though I've only watched The Aztecs once. Maybe it's due a rewatch. And 2 of the episodes being animated doesn't really bother me, because I like, it's late. Because I like the story so much, it keeps me engaged, it keeps me moving. I like the guest cast, I like the main cast, and except Susan, which isn't Carol's fault. I just feel like Susan doesn't get to do anything. She's just kind of useless in this story. But Barbara has some good stuff to do. I don't know if I quite buy her attraction to the other guy, since they barely meet. And she's still kind of upset when he dies. And she's even snapping at Ian about, you should check your history books. It seems a little, that doesn't strike me as very Barbara. But other than that, Barbara's great in this. Ian's good in this. The doctor is phenomenally good in this. And the sets look really good. And that's, and the story's good. For me, that makes a good Doctor Who story. So The Reign of Terror. What do you think of it? Comment down below and let me know. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. That's how I got this, actually. I believe Simon sent this one, which I very much appreciate. Simon is also one of my patrons. If you would like to support me on Patreon, there is a link to that down in the description below. Whew, I feel like I'm out of breath. I don't know why. if you would like to support me on my Patreon, that's down there. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated, each and every one of you. I also have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there, and a link to my Amazon UK wishlist down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.